You're listening to the Armchair GMs Sports Network.
You're listening to the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs Edition, your source for all news, reactions, analysis, and objective discussions regarding the NHL's Toronto Maple Leafs from right here in the Niagara region. Here's your host, Kyle Kitt.
What's going on, Leaf fans? Welcome to another episode of the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs Edition right here on the Armchair GMs Sports Network, your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, and it's delivered to you right here in the beautiful Niagara region. You can follow the network on all our social media platforms, such as Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram by searching the Armchair GMs Sports Network. The network is available to listen to on all our audio platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Deezer. Wherever you're getting your podcasts, you can find us by searching up the Armchair GM Sports Network. You can also check out our user-friendly website, armchairgmsports.com, for all recordings of the network. Articles, podcasts, episodes, sponsor information, and contributor information are also located on there. As always, I'm your host of the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs Edition. My name is Kyle. You can follow me on Twitter at justkyle51. And joining me today on the podcast, yes, I have a co-host just for today. As if you guys heard my previous podcast, and it's been a while. It's been a while since I released an episode. I actually have the co-owner of the GM, or I'm going to call him the boss of the Armchair GM Sports Network. Brandon's joining me today. What's going on, Brandon?
Hello. It's weird to be in enemy territory today.
It is, and if you guys don't know, Brandon is actually a big Buffalo Sabres fan. But I need someone to play off of, especially because I haven't had an episode in a long time. We've been in the search for a co-host. So if you guys are interested, you should go follow our Facebook page. You can see there's a link. We're looking for a co-host. If you're interested, message myself or Brandon. Because I'm always looking for a new one. But Brandon's going to join me today. He's going to speak objectively, I'm assuming.
As objectively as I can.
Fair enough. We're going to talk about the Leafs, guys. I know it's been a while since I had a last episode. It's probably since before the beginning of the season. So we'll touch base a little bit on how, the beginning of the season, how it's gone so far. We'll touch base on the player stats, who I think needs improvement, who I think has been obviously contributing the most. There's literally just been one player. And then we'll talk about the standings and all that. Kind of bunch it up in a little ball and get that information out to you guys, because I'm not sure when I'm going to get another episode out to you guys. If I do, it'll be another solo one sometime soon while I still search for a co-host. But thank you, Brandon, for coming on. You can follow Brandon, though, at Caputs13 on Twitter for his stuff on everything, man. You tweet a lot now more.
Yeah, I mean, we got so much going on, and especially the Sabre stuff, the Ice Dog stuff, the TV stuff. It's a whirlwind, but I do what I can. Yeah,
and you do a good job of keeping your mind into it, right? It's not like you go to the baseball show and you bring up Jack Eichel by accident.
Yeah, you got to try not to mix everything together, especially when you're doing the intros. You got to make sure that you're doing the intro for the right show.
Oh God.
Yeah, you go from football to baseball to hockey. It's easy to mess up, but no, I can talk objectively about the Leafs. I mean, whether I like it or not, I live in the heart of Leafs Nation, so I have to listen to Leafs talk, and I have to
tolerate.
I have to tolerate Leafs talk. So again, all my friends, including you, are Leaf fans for the most part, 95% of them. So we'll see if they enjoy my takes on the Leafs today. And again, I'm gonna give them some credit for some things, but there's some things that I think need to be said and kind of brought to light. But with that said, I'm excited to actually talk Leafs today. Talked about it on TV last night on the Stretch Pass on your TV.
Hey,
Wednesday nights at 9:00. So check that out. But
I saw that, the Stretch Pass. Who came up with that name?
Good old Matt Young. Gotta give a shout out to him on that one.
That's clever. I saw that. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like a TSN sports show, a side show they do with James Duthie, the Stretch Pass.
Yeah, it looks good. So until there's any Ice Dogs hockey, and we usually talk Ice Dogs on our Dog Pound podcast with you and I, we haven't been able to do that lately. So
God, I miss it.
It's not, basically this was the only opportunity we had to talk hockey. So until any OHL news comes out, I guess I'll be joining you on the Leaf show.
And you know what? I miss it. And I think it could speak for any like hockey fan in general, whether you're a fan of like the Sabres, the Leafs, Ottawa, Montreal, whatever. I miss being at the rink. Like I miss walking to the rink, smelling that arena smell, the concession smells, the cheer, the crowd, and it's just I miss being at the rink.
Hearing the puck hit the glass and warm-ups.
Oh God, yeah, and the god awful house music they blare through the arena that the players somehow love and get pumped up by. But but yeah, I just miss being there, and it's so weird watching hockey. Like I've gotten used to it now, but it was so weird in the beginning watching like even the Leafs in the beginning with no crowd and just seeing like that tarped arena from like we seen in the bubble. And like the fake crowd noise is just like, oh, I still like I'm used to it now, but I still hate it. I can't stand it. Like you see it when they score. The big thing for me is when I see the home team score, I haven't noticed it with a lot of other teams, but the Leafs, I hope whoever the audio guy is, you got to step your game up a little bit because they're always late with the crowd noise. I know it's hard to sync up, but it's almost like they're like 5 seconds late. It's like the puck goes in, and then you see the first player hugging whoever, like Matthews scoring, and then the crowd's like, "Wah!"
Yeah, or when they call it penalty, and then they play the "aw" sound, like the angry crowd sound for.
Oh, I can't wait for real crowds again because it's gonna be weird when we hear real crowds because we're probably gonna be so used to that fake crowd noise. By the time we first hear like a crowd of, it could only be like 10,000 people, we're going to be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's going to feel that much better.
The Leafs have scored so many goals. I mean, you've had to hear it a lot, so.
Yeah. I mean, okay, we might as well talk about that right off the bat. Let's talk about the division. I really want to start off with this talk. And we briefly discussed off air, okay, and I will retract back. I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, but what have you thought about the North Division?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that they have done a great job as far as making sure that these players are safe. They're the only division to not have any games be postponed, so I think they have to be given a lot of credit for that, just for the fact that Canada has a little bit tougher restrictions than the USA as far as the whole pandemic goes, but that's a whole other topic. But they've done a good job at being able to make sure that they get all their games in. Yeah. And I believe they've done a good job with being able to get more rivalry games, like 8 games against these big rivalry games, Hockey Night in Canada, Leafs, Canadians, Battle of Alberta.
Yeah, some are like 3 straight too.
There's obviously the ratings are going to be there. So those are 2 things that I've liked about the Canadian division, and I give them credit for that. But on the flip side of it, you look at what I discussed on TV last night, and basically it to me it just seems inflated, in my opinion. Like, you look at the lack of defense. 3 of the 7 teams essentially have under 500 records. You have Ottawa, who's tied for dead last with Detroit right now. The fact that they get to play those teams 8 times, other than the other divisions play each other 7 times because there's one less team in the Canadian division, so they have to play 8 times instead of 7. And just the goal totals by these divisions have been outrageous, and I have a stat here to back that up. The North Division, 5 of the 7 teams have scored at least 60 goals. The rest of the 24 teams in the other 3 divisions combined only have 4 teams that have scored 60-plus goals this season. So 5 teams in this Canadian division have scored 60. 4 out of the rest of the 24 have scored more than 60. And then you look at Ottawa and Vancouver, who have contributed mostly to that by giving up 84 and 82 goals respectively in just over 20 games. So to me, those are the outlying stats that just go to show that, taking nothing away from Edmonton and Toronto as high-powered offenses, you have to look at those underlying stats and say, okay, what is going on here? Why is this division seem like the balls are juiced, in a baseball term, where the baseballs are just flying out of the ballpark? It seems like the goals are just going in left and right in this North Division, and there seems to be way more goals scored in this division for that reason. So for me, that's my complaint with the division. It just seems like the point totals and the way that it is shaken out has been kind of a little bit outlying compared to the other three divisions.
I'm actually shocked Vancouver is doing as bad as they are. I think Ottawa, I think everybody kind of seen that coming. Like, they made some adjustments, but, they weren't going to be up there with Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Toronto. That was a long shot. But because Vancouver's got has a negative 14 differential with 82 against, with a goaltending tandem of Holtby and Demko, I don't think anyone could have foreseen 82 goals against at this point in the season, which we are like, 20? They're 23 games in. That shocked me.
And my thing, going back to the Leafs here, is that they're scoring at an astronomical. They're almost averaging 4 goals a game, Kyle. And that's just like, I understand that they're a good offensive team, but scoring 4 goals a game in the NHL these days, there's something going on with that, and I think it has to be contributed to what is going on in that division with the lack of defense and what Vancouver and Ottawa have given up in bunches this year for whatever reason. We know that Ottawa's a rebuilding team, but when you get to play a team like that so many times, I guess that is the reason why their goal totals are just out through the roof right now, and especially Matthews, I'm sure, would be on a torrid goal pace regardless of what division he was in, but right now he's leading the league with 18 goals, 6 more than the next 2 guys. So it's definitely been crazy to see the stats for the Leafs this year.
I will give credit, though, to the Leafs a little bit, though, because if we were going in every night and destroying Vancouver and Ottawa, I'd completely agree, but I don't agree, because I'll point out to the stupid game we played last Saturday when we played the Ottawa Senators, and look what happened. I mean, we scored 5 goals, but we couldn't stop them from scoring 6 against us. And we're going to run into games like that when we play these teams, and I still think that adds for a semi-competitive division when you don't know what you're going to get. You could look at the stat sheet and see, okay, Toronto and Ottawa play next. Chances are Toronto's going to win 6-1, or they're going to go in and completely shit the bed and only score like 1 goal, and Ottawa will score 3 because the Leafs couldn't get their shit together.
And Frederik Andersen, I think he's given up, almost 3 goals a game.
Oh God,
that defense and just the defense in the North Division. I don't know what is going on with it, but it seems to be non-existent. I don't know if that's because of how great the offenses are, but just in general, most of the teams in this division, if I'm looking at it right now, I mean, they're all giving up a lot of goals as well. I mean, the Jets have given up the least amount of goals at 49 in 18 games. Everybody else is over 50, and then you have obviously the outliers of Vancouver and Ottawa in the 80s, but there's, for whatever reason, there's tons of goals for and tons of goals against in this division, way more than the other divisions, which even though they have played less games because of the postponements in those divisions in the States, the goals for and goals against per game are still, like, for whatever reason, they seem to be way higher in that division than the other 3 combined. It just doesn't really make sense to me.
So let's talk about the Leafs player stats. And beforehand, guys, just want to plug Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano here, home with the best pizza and wing combos in Niagara Falls. From the Niagara this week, 4 years running. Visit them at carmine'spizzeria.ca, which I actually helped design the website for that, and like them on Facebook for unique promotions. Available for call ahead, pickup, or delivery. Way too good. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. It's good stuff. I can definitely vouch for that, because my dad actually ordered some Carmine's last night and actually ordered chicken wings.
Yeah.
They're good wings, man. They're honestly, like, if you guys live in the Niagara region, I highly suggest trying Carmine's wings, because they are incredible. They're great.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's talk about the Leaf stats. And you brought it up there, Freddie. You got to talk about Freddie off the bat. And we're going to be talking about the Leaf stats here. I'm going to be talking about, like, them as a general from the beginning of the season till now, kind of like a review of them. So Frederik Andersen, I mean, this year, record-wise, you could sit there and look at his stat line and say, okay, he's been okay. You want him to be better, but he's been okay. 11-3-0, or 11-3-0-2. He's got a 2.69 goals against average, 905 save percentage. For Frederik Andersen, though, in a division that's, it's been a powerhouse offense. So that's one thing you could say, okay, maybe that's why he's not performing the way he is. But we've seen in years prior that Frederik Andersen, against a high-powered offensive team, is able to shut them down. And I really don't think I've seen that from him this year.
Especially with some horrible defenses in front of him. The Leafs have had some terrible team defense in front of him over the years, and I feel like this is one of the better ones that he's had, and for whatever reason, he's been giving up more goals, even though he's been maybe left out to dry more in previous seasons.
Yeah, because that's a big thing, too. He's being more left... How do you rephrase this? He's being left out to dry less this year than any previous year. And he's still letting in goals where you're like, okay, like you want to sit there and be that guy and kind of rain on his confidence, but he's got to have so many goals that he's let in this year, especially from your starting goalie, from like a Hutchinson or Campbell, whatever. They're a backup, they're a third stringer. It is what it is with them. But from your starting goalie, who's been questionable to be in the Vezina Vezina talk conversation in previous years, he's got to be there to make that save. And I have not seen it from him. And it's a very horrible time for this to happen because it's a contract year. Like, this is the year, like, this is Frederik Andersen's last year as a Maple Leaf, potentially, if they don't come to a contract agreement. And if you're coming into your contract year, wouldn't you want to play lights out to try to get that big contract from the Buds? Like, make them make moves around to get you a big contract? You not want to come in and just, be lackadaisical and say, oh, they'll still keep me anyways. Because I'd feel the Leafs are comfortable, especially Dubas, with letting him go if he doesn't perform well.
Yeah, well, especially because we've seen Jack Campbell be able to step in there. Obviously, he's hurt right now, but, in his 2 games that he played, he looked pretty solid. He's only given up 4 goals in those 2 games, a .923 save percentage, and he's due back next week. So I could definitely see down the stretch the Leafs maybe resting Frederik Andersen a little bit more and resting him forward because obviously they're going to be making the playoffs in this division. They're in first place. Yeah. So you could see maybe Freddie needs a little bit of a rest, and maybe he hasn't been able to get that with Jack Campbell being out. We know that Michael Hutchinson is not the greatest. So maybe down the stretch, maybe they do like a 60-40 split and Campbell, Soupy gets into a fair amount of games and gets Freddie rested up and ready to go for the playoffs, but still gets him some game action to keep him fresh as well. So maybe that's something down the stretch the Leafs might be able to do with their tandem.
I think they're going to have to, because like if you think before Hutchinson came in, at that point it looks like it was Frederik Andersen 13 games, Campbell 2. That's not a good ratio.
No.
That is an overplayed ratio.
And it's not like that Jack Campbell's not a capable backup like we see some other places where the backup plays 2 games. There's a lot, like, especially this year, and especially in the back-to-backs this year more than ever, maybe, you need to have two reliable goaltenders. We've seen that Vegas is not trading Fleury because they need him and Leonard. You've seen Carolina have to rely on Reimer as their backup goalie, which Leaf fans have obviously...
Hey, and our Bud Nedeljkovic I've seen got in a couple of games, then he got a shutout.
Yep, and he's going to have to go on waivers once Mrazek comes back, so a team might claim him. But we've seen, like I said, more than ever this year, you need 2 capable goalies, and I think the Leafs have that in Andersen and Campbell when he does come back next week, but I do think that he's going to get more action down the stretch than maybe you had anticipated.
Yeah, I really hope they do it. If you're going to put it in more perspective, next time they have like a 3-game series against a team like Ottawa, I wouldn't be opposed if Campbell maybe played all 3 games, Or if maybe Andersen got in on the last one, but in the first you play Campbell. Because I think you overplay Andersen in a season like this, especially going into his contract year. I don't think it's a good sign. And I think maybe it is. Maybe it is wear and tear on him from playing so much that, it's affecting his play. And I guess we'll have to see. Because if they lose Andersen, I can't see Campbell being starting goalie going forward. I can see him being, a interim starting goalie until they figure out that situation. But Campbell is not a starting goalie. Absolutely not. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if they bring up his draft year and all that stuff and what he's done for the Leafs so far. He's not a starting goalie. He's not a guy that's going to go out and play 50-plus games a year for you.
Mm-hmm. But he can definitely be that solid guy in a regular season to play 20, 25 games as a backup goaltender.
100%. So that's on the goalie end of it. Player-wise, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about the players. And, I mean, I can't say anything bad about Austin Matthews so far. I mean, the guy's lived up to his expectations plus this year.
Didn't you say there was a report today that he's apparently...
that's the best part. So, Austin Matthews, as everyone knows, leading the league with 18 goals. Apparently, he's been doing so with a wrist injury. And apparently, according to Sheldon Keefe this year, he mentioned that he's had it since the beginning of the season. And he's still able to score 18 goals. It's just recently, in the last couple of games, it's been aggravating him. And that was why the switch, if you guys noticed, you Leaf fans, that's what I'm talking to here, if you notice, Matthews was on the opposite side the last 2 games against Calgary on the power plays because his wrist has been bothering him. Usually, he's on that opposite side, as we've seen in the previous power plays, for that one-timer.
And he hasn't scored in those 2 games. So.
Yeah, so it's... I hope it's not bad, and it's gonna lead up to surgery soon. I hope it's manageable, and he's just taking... It's hard to recover a wrist injury with the amount of games that these teams are playing without a break.
As many shots as that guy takes,
Yeah. So obviously you can't talk bad about Austin Matthews. Mitch Marner, I mean, he's lived up to the playmaker that he essentially is. I remember back when we first drafted him, I think a lot of people thought that he had the potential to be like the Patrick Kane of the Leafs and, be that goal scorer. It kind of seems like him and Matthews have switched that role. And Mitch Marner has turned into like this incredible playmaker, which he has. I mean, 30 points in 21 games, 21 assists. I think he's done great this year. It's the third guy out of the 3 that are making the most money in this team. Stat-wise, I mean, he's still performing all right. I think I'd like to see more out of it. But John Tavares, 17 points in 21 games. Something's going on with him. And I've noticed it a lot in the last month or so.
You don't have to tell me about guys that are getting paid a lot that aren't producing a lot. If you want to hear that, you just tune into the Sabres episode tomorrow, and we'll talk about our even strength goals numbers from our top players. But it kind of reminds me of John Tavares here. I mean, 6 goals. He hasn't had a goal in 3 games. It seems like he's not shooting a lot. For whatever reason, his ice time seems to be down. So, like, what is the deal with him? Like, what?
He's either got a 300-pound gorilla as a monkey on his back, or they're struggling to find people to work with him because he's had different line mates almost every game this year.
Yeah, I mean, according to Left Wing Lock, his current line mates sit as I can pull it up here, Kerfoot and Nylander. So
Nylander, I think, has been the lock all season, but it's that other side. He really has had interchangeable. I've seen Barabanov there. Hyman has been in there. Spezza's been in there, I think, at least once this year.
Do you think that has to contribute to the fact that Sheldon Keefe plays Mitch Marner with Austin Matthews, which Mike Babcock refused to do, and maybe Tavares is missing playing with a guy like Marner?
I think it might be it. I just don't see the alternative to bring Marner back down because him and Matthews have now built that insane chemistry that you never want to take apart. Like, they're Kane and Taves. You don't want to touch that. You keep them together. It's just they're struggling to find that replacement for Tavares, who, I mean, when Marner was with Tavares, they were almost unstoppable as Marner and Matthews are now. So I think they're struggling to find that other guy, and I think that goes into the recent rumors of the Leafs being interested in Philip Forsberg.
I heard Michael Granlund as well. So 2 Nashville forwards.
And that's interesting because Nashville is in all sorts of trouble right now, and they're heading towards a fire sale sometime soon.
Mm-hmm. Too bad the Leafs weren't in the market for a defenseman because Matthias Ekholm is available.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say no to that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a UFA. He's a pending UFA. But
yeah, and the Forsberg talk. I mean, if you're going for it this year, and the Leafs are at the poker table, and now is the time to win. You push your chips in for a guy like Forsberg or even a Granlund or even an Ekholm at that point. This is the time to do it.
in Nashville, I think the only reason that they have Forsberg not as an untouchable is because they would expect a Brinks truck to be backed up for a guy like Philip Forsberg.
Yeah.
I think if the Leafs are more realistic at getting a guy like Granlund, he's on a 1-year deal, so it's nothing too major here. They probably wouldn't have to give up too much for a guy like Granlund. I think he could fit nicely. He could play right and left wing, so he could fit nicely maybe on that second line with Tavares and Nylander. Maybe they can find some chemistry there, but definitely I think they're going to be looking for a guy to slot in with Tavares on that second line forward as far as the trade deadline goes.
And it sucks because like they acquire talent this year to see if he could build chemistry with one of them, and they've all failed. Like the biggest failure of them all was Jimmy Vesey. I don't know why he's even still here at this point.
Yeah, second that.
It's like 3 points in 21 games, and they've tried him literally almost everywhere, and it's just like I think people see there's potential in him, and when I see people, I say like our team, and when he was on your team, and when he was on the Rangers, people see there's potential in him, but he just doesn't go to that next level.
Yeah, there's no consistency there whatsoever.
Yeah, so they've tried him there. Mikheyev, oh my God, if Mikheyev could finish, he'd probably be up there with Matthews in scoring right now. This guy's had so many scoring chances this year that he hasn't been able to put the puck in the net. Like, we talk about monkeys on the back. Like, Mikheyev's got a 300-pound gorilla when it comes to that monkey in the back, and that's just from putting the puck in the net. If he could put the puck in the net, he'd be producing at a crazy pace because he's had so many shorthanded breakaways this year that he's either missed or just couldn't bury. That I swear to God, Mikheyev would have at least anywhere from, I'd say, 13 to 15 goals this year.
Yeah, well, on shots on goal that he's actually hit the net, he's only 2 for 37 this year.
Oh, he's been really like, oh man, I see Leaf Nation every time he gets a breakaway or has a breakaway chance that he misses. It's just we're ripping our eyelids out every single time. We're like, just bury the freaking puck.
So what about Zach Hyman on that top line with Matthews and Marner? How's that been working? Because he's got 11 points, a +10 rating.
So Hyman's not your stat guy, obviously. We all know that. He's the guy that goes into the corners and gets that puck for Matthews and Marner, and he's just that extra gritty guy. And it looked like it was kind of working with Thornton at first, but obviously now Joe Thornton, with the injuries he's had, I'm not even sure if he's going to be back by the end of the season, to be honest. Looking at the injuries now, they have him listed as day-to-day, but it's an undisclosed injury now. Like, he came back from his first injury, and then something else happened now, and it has nothing to do with the first injury, and they won't disclose it, so I'm not sure what's going on with him. Wayne Simmons has a fractured wrist, which kind of sucks because he looked good with Marner and Matthews at one point. And he looked like he was doing all right in the power play too, and that kind of sucks that we lost him as well. But getting Hyman back from injury last night looked like it helped. He's just that guy. Hyman's that guy that can work on any line, to be honest. Wherever you slot him, he's gonna work. I think he works best though. I would try it with Nylander and Tavares, to be honest. I see Tavares too many times being that guy that goes into the corners to get the puck, and I'm like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, and back to the Wayne Simmons point, it seemed like he was a solid fit for the Leafs. He scored 2 goals in the game that he got injured, and then obviously out for a long time with the broken wrist, whatever it was that he had. But it seemed like he had been working well. He was obviously, sticking up for his teammates, getting into scrums and going to the front of the net, which the Leafs have had trouble with guys wanting to go to the front of the net, to go to the dirty areas, to bury pucks, because they have the perimeter guys ready to shoot, but they need somebody in front. And Wayne Simmons seemed like he was going to be that guy for the Leafs, but obviously the unfortunate injury. But Hyman, the Leafs seemed, with the moves that they made this offseason, they needed to be grittier. They needed to have guys that would do the dirty work, because they keep losing in the playoffs to teams like Boston and Columbus that play a physical defensive style of game, and the Leafs obviously have not had good results in those playoff series. So they finally went out and tried to get some more of that to go along with their top end skilled players. How do you think that kind of has worked this year with that kind of change in philosophy?
I think it's worked to a sense that if they're all healthy, it works. But now it's like we get bad luck. We acquire these guys and all of them get hurt. Like Jake Muzzin, I mean, we acquired before that, but now he's got a facial fracture, and we're kind of waiting to see when that's fixed, and he'll come back with a full, fishbowl. So it'll be good to have him back. And he's silently been doing great on this team too, like a +6 and 12 points in 19 games. That's actually very good for a defenseman on a team, and he's been producing well. But guys like Wayne Simmons, like you said it best there, like the guy that goes in front of the net, like that's what we needed. And it just sucks that, the injury bug has come at this time, but I know it's only the beginning of the season, but you really see a difference when they're not on there. When they're not playing, it's almost like we revert back to the Leafs of a few years ago. And it showed that tremendously in the last 2 games with our power play. It's been god freaking awful. I can't believe we haven't scored a power play goal. I don't know what it has been, like 16 or 18 chances. And then last night they tried putting Jimmy Vesey on there, and I'm like, Leafs Nation's going, what the hell are you doing, Keefe? Get him off of that line. He's not going to be the guy that drives a spark into your power play.
Boyd as well.
No, Travis Boyd. I mean, you see, Travis Boyd is that guy that hides around the corner and will come up and show something flashy once in a while and then go right back to the corner. Like he had that really sweet goal the other day, and after that he just kind of disappeared. I haven't hated his game. He's a perfect bottom 6 guy. I really haven't hated his game. Him, Spezza, I cannot hate enough. I can't find anything wrong with Jason Spezza's game, because at this point in his career, for what he's doing and producing right now, is perfect. And especially at a league min contract, I can't complain at all. Engvall the same way. He might not be on the stat sheet, but Engvall does the things that really don't go recognized by a lot of the fans. I think he's doing really well. Defense-wise, the TJ Brody edition, I think Morgan Rielly has found now his perfect partner. I don't think it's really shown perfection so far, because obviously the defense has still been a nagging and lingering thing with the Buds. But I think Rielly and Brody have found really good chemistry together. I think it's going to be tough to get to that point where Brody had with Giordano. I'm not sure if they're ever going to get to that point. But I think with more games and still 30 something or close to 40 games left in the year, I think it's going to eventually get there, because obviously Brody here for the long run, Morgan Rielly here to play with him. I think those guys have been a very good pairing together.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we should take a break.
I think we should. So we're going to take our first commercial break, guys, here, and we'll come back and talk more about the Leafs. Myself and Brandon here, so we'll be right back here on the Armchair GM Sports Network and right back here on the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs edition.
Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving traditional-style Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and their famous chicken wings. Winners of the Reader's Choice Diamond Award, 4 years running from Niagara this week for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. Home of the best tray and wing combo in town for the price and quality. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery at 905-374-4400. Make sure to like them on Facebook and view their website for their menu at carmine'spizzeria.ca. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Way too good. As we all adjust to this new world that we're living in today, masks are now mandatory, and Niagara's own Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Visit them online at customppe.ca and choose between several mask options with different colors and sizes. Add your organization, company, or team logo so you make your face masks unique. Available to purchase online 24/7 at customppe.ca and shipped within 1 week. They have the best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, and no order is too big or too small. Also offering custom floor stickers as well as face and counter shields for your business or workplace. Visit customppe.ca and use the code ARMCHAIR at checkout for 20% off your custom or blank face mask today. Custom PPE, Canada's leading face mask provider. Attention job seekers, if you are currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls, directly across from the Camisos Plaza. Their free services include resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and all their services are currently provided by appointment only. So give them a call at 905-358-0021 or visit their website at ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
Alright guys, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the Armchair GMs Sports Network and the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs edition. Joined here by Brandon to talk about the Leafs. Previous segment we talked about the Leafs player stats in the North Division. Here to talk more about their season so far. And coming up, the Leafs now have a 3-game series against the Edmonton Oilers, which is probably that's the highlight of the North Division, right? That's the game that if there's a game that everyone's going to tune into, it's Edmonton and Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And
especially with the Matthews and McDavid kind of Hart Trophy race at this point.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm curious to see if Matthews heals that wrist up for the next 2 days.
Mm-hmm. And they're all in Edmonton. 3 straight games in Edmonton.
Oh, and then we're in 2 games in Vancouver after that. So we're on a 5-game Western Canadian road trip, starting with Edmonton on the 27th, which is this Saturday. Then they play on Monday at 10 p.m., which I'm not looking forward to. And so that means the Edmonton game is at 4 o'clock. Oh,
yeah, 4 o'clock local time.
Evening game. Interesting. And then 8 p.m. Next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Yeah. Which is 6?
5.
No, 5.
No,
5 p.m. No, you're right. 5.
Yeah.
We know time zones. We're good.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see how this series goes again. Like you said, Matthews, McDavid, the race for the Hart Trophy. Matthews in his race of his own for the Maurice Richard Trophy, I guess you can say as well. We'll see. I think McDavid could probably catch him eventually too. I think once he gets going a little bit more, if Matthews starts to slow down.
He's second in goals, McDavid.
Yeah, so
he's
there you go.
Behind. But I think he's going to win the Art Ross. It's not even going to be close.
No,
but
he's just he's in a league of his own
right
McDavid.
now.
Yeah.
Matthews would need to score, in my opinion, 60 plus goals for him to win the Hart with the pace that McDavid. McDavid is on pace for over 100 points in a 56 game season. Just incredible.
Yeah, he's got 38 now and 21.
Yeah, he's on pace for over. If it was a regular season, he'd be on pace for over 150 points. It's been ridiculous. So, for me, I see it being very hard for Matthews to get it done with McDavid's pace that he's on. Like I said, Matthews would need to score over 60 goals for me to even think that it would be even close, because those two guys have just been so much better than the rest of the league so far, stat wise. But unless Matthews ends up getting 4 points a game, seems like McDavid's doing. It's going to be hard for me to see him getting it over McDavid at this point. But these 3 games here could mean a lot. Excuse me. Maybe Matthews comes out and has 3 way better games than McDavid, and the lead is shrunken than maybe more than what we had thought it might be.
Wow. And you know what's crazy? I'm looking at it right now. The first American team, or teams because they're tied, that are in the first American team that has someone in the top scoring for goals is a tie between Dustin Brown and Logan Couture at 10.
Yep.
Actually, no, they're in a big tie. They're in a 5-way tie with Ehlers, Scheifele, and Draisaitl. But the first American team or teams is LA and San Jose. Wow. And Dustin Brown.
Yeah, he's had a resurgence here. Have him in fantasy. He's been great. But
what is happening?
Again, the Canadian division, the juiced baseballs this year, they're just flying out of the park for whatever reason.
That's incredible.
And you look at, the Leafs power play. They haven't given up a shorthanded goal yet. excuse me, they haven't given up a shorthanded goal, so that's, I guess, a plus. But their power play percentage is currently 4th in the league, considering how bad that you've said it's been the last 2 games. They're currently 4th behind Chicago, Buffalo, and Washington.
Oh.
Well, Buffalo just can't score 5-on-5, but apparently they can score on the power play.
Hey, if you just draw penalties all game, maybe you win some games.
Yeah, sure. But regardless of that, Toronto's still 4th in the league, and they were probably first before their drought the last couple of games before they tried switching it around here. So
they better figure it out, because if they don't, they're going to drop significantly, because I cannot stand watching this power play go on anymore, because it's just sad. They've reverted back to that stupid drop pass that they do, like entering the neutral zone, which I hate with a passion.
That needs to die a horrible, horrible death and never come back to the NHL again.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
Like, I don't think any team is fooled by it ever. I don't think it's ever worked.
And I've seen other teams adapt it. Like, other teams have adapted it, and it doesn't work for them either. So why do teams even try it?
It's like the new NHL thing to do. It's like, instead of dumping it in, let's do this drop pass thing and try to catch them off guard and go right up the
like
middle.
A shotgun someone. The team's not expecting it. And it happened last night every time. You know what? Calgary just stacked everybody at the blue line, and the Leafs couldn't enter the zone. I'm like, could we stop shotgunning someone, because it's not working? Or if you're going to do it, dump it in. They try to carry it in. That's the one thing. If they dumped it in and get it past the 4 forwards that are stacked, or the 4 players that are stacked the line there, it could work. You could have people ready to go and dump and chase, and maybe you can get the puck back. But they had a serious tough time getting the puck into the zone and getting a cycle going. It was hard to watch, and it was driving me absolutely bananas. I was turning it off. Like, I know last night kind of sucked for me, because big wrestling fan, there was wrestling on, so I was kind of flipping between both. And every time I saw the Leafs go to the power play, you know what? I'm not ashamed to say I flipped back to wrestling. I'm like, I'm not watching this, because I know that's going to happen, and I know they're not going to score. And sure enough, look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, they almost got shut out by Calgary for 2 full games.
Okay, David Riddish is not the best goalie in the world. What is happening? Why couldn't we put a puck past him until late last night?
Like, it took them till what, a minute and a half left in the third period to score.
That's like what, 60, 80, 100, like almost 120 minutes to score a goal.
On David Ridd. Big save, Dave.
He was big save, I guess. I don't understand. I mean, Matthews can't be the only one that can score on this team. Like, I don't know what's going on with that.
And I think it's a good segue to talk about last night is that the criticism of William Nylander.
Oh, God.
Do you think that this is warranted? He scores the tying goal with over a minute and a half left, and then he gets the overtime winner. So what is the deal with the Nylander criticism with his contract and with they're saying that everybody's pulling their weight but him, and then he goes out and has a game like that. Just what is going on with that situation?
See, since day one, and you know this, I've said it before in the show, and you've heard me say it, I've been always a fan of William Nylander. I've been a fan of his contract. It's one of the biggest steal contract. It's just, I think the problem with him, and I see it too. Don't get me wrong, Leaf fans. I see this too. Is that it's the effort level he pulls off sometimes, and I don't think a lot of people understand the way he plays his game. Like he plays that style of kind of free floats around kind of thing, and then I think it's the time when he has the puck or he's in situations where he has to get the puck that I understand the criticism, because I don't think he actually tries enough, because he has the skill. He has the skill to be that guy, to be a really great player, but it seems that at times he just doesn't put enough effort into it, and it makes you question if he's even sweating underneath that bucket at the end of the game. But I think Nylander really kind of silenced the critics a little bit. Not a lot, because I still read Leaf Twitter after. But silenced a lot of people after him scoring the tying goal late, and then, which was a grindy goal. It was a big scramble in front of the net, and he grinded his way and got the puck into the net. Like, that's what people want to see from William Nylander. That's what they want to see. That's what their criticism is. They don't see him doing that enough, so they shit on him because he's an easy target, and he knows he's the whipping boy. I said in his post-game interview, he knows he gets a lot of criticism, so he knows he's the whipping boy, and he knows he even said, I love the fact that he brought up that he knows he has to try harder, and he knows that he can. and that he'll try to do it. So I respect him for saying that. But I think, again, the problem is what he did last night, the tying goal. We don't see that enough. The overtime goal we see all the time. It comes out in spurts when he does. Maybe if he tried a little bit harder too, he could get more of those. It's the tying goal we don't see enough out of because he can do it.
And, I mean, him and Tavares, has that just not clicked like they had?
I don't know what it is. Like, Nylander, I don't know if he... I can't tell. I honestly can't tell what the deal is, why these two can't click. Like, Nylander almost, like, I wouldn't say plays the same style as Matthews. Matthews obviously is better defensively than Nylander, but in the offensive zone, Nylander and Matthews kind of float around and do, half the same things. Maybe if Nylander grinds a little bit more, it would help Tavares out on that end and they can gain a little bit more chemistry. I don't know if Nylander kind of lets Tavares do most of the work, and that's kind of like, that's not really helping Tavares at all.
You don't see a situation or scenario where how great Matthews and Marner have been together where they try to go back to the last year's combinations of Nylander with Matthews and Marner with Tavares, do you?
See, I guarantee that Keefe has thought about it in his head. I honestly think that he thought about doing that just to try to get Tavares going. I just don't think he will do it. I think he knows that Tavares has it in him to get out of this funk, and I know he's kind of mentioned that without actually mentioning that in his post-game interviews, Keefe. He knows, like, he has faith in Tavares that will get out of his slump. He's kind of said that. And I think Tavares has kind of said that in his post-game too. Like, he knows that he's, not performed to the best of his ability, and he's got to get out of that funk as well. I think he wants to have Tavares prove to everybody that he can get it out of his slump himself without Keefe aiding him and having to resort to putting Marner back on his line just to get him going. And I think when keeping Nylander there and trying to find that extra winger that will help that situation even more, it's going to be really tough to see if Nylander would even stay in this position. And I don't even mean moving to another line. I mean possibly being a trading piece if it doesn't work. Because where are you going to put Nylander if he's not going to work with Tavares? You're not going to put him with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. We've seen that a little bit last night, and you know what? Just no, it's not going to work out like that. You can't have three highly skilled guys on the same line. You need that kind of power forward grinder type. It works the best with like a sniper and a playmaker.
And you're not going to put him in the bottom six. You're not going to give him the Jeff Skinner treatment and put him on the fourth line.
And you're not trading John Tavares. So, like, it's kind of unfortunate that Nylander has to be, what I said before, the whipping boy in the situation where if he doesn't pick up his play and be the guy to help Tavares get out of this funk, or at least contribute to it and, contribute to his own game as well, Nylander, man, you might be packing your bags and quarantining for 14 days by the deadline because you might be gone. And what if they look at maybe actually replacing him with a Philip Forsberg? What if it's Forsberg for Nylander? What if it's that change that maybe that Forsberg is the guy to help spark John Tavares instead of William Nylander?
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider. I don't know if it would be a one-for-one type of deal, but
it'd be a package deal.
It would essentially be him slotting in that Nylander spot. What about the bottom six, though? Like, obviously, there's been injuries to guys like Thornton and Simmons.
The bottom six just been...
Now they've got Kerfoot on the second line left wing instead of being the third line center, which everybody expects him to be. What's going on with his bottom six?
It's just... the injuries doesn't help establish a bottom six. And with the amount of additions that the Leafs did this year, and with no exhibition games and barely a training camp, it was hard to figure out who was playing what position. So I think that's what the Leafs have been doing in these 20 games. That's why there's been so much movement in the bottom six, regardless of injuries, is they're trying to find what their bottom six is and trying to find the identity of their bottom six because they really don't know. Like, they haven't had time to figure that out. So with the amount of additions that they have, especially with adding in guys like Barabanov, Travis Boyd, you can include Wayne Simmons in that conversation for that matter. I mean, now we're getting Ilya Mikheyev playing full-time basis. He had a big injury last year. They're trying to find the right line combination that will fit, so they don't have to keep juggling the lines. But bottom six lines get juggled all the time. It happens with every other team. But to find, yeah, I mean, again, like I said before, Spezza, out of the bottom six, the guys that I think are performing well into the best that I expect them to perform is guys like Jason Spezza. I would put Mikheyev in that conversation if he could finish, but Kerfoot, I don't know. I can't tell with this guy. I can't tell if there's more if there's more in him that we need to see, or if this is enough, and is he worth the price we paid for him?
Yeah, I mean, they've lost Barry from the Kadri trade. Essentially, Kerfoot's the last remaining piece from the Kadri trade, you know, and Kadri just wasn't going to work as a third-line center on this team. He's playing well with Colorado as their number 2, but when you have Matthews and Tavares, you're not moving up the lineup, so it was a trade that had to be made. But is he the third-line center? Is he going to be a winger here until the Leafs make a trade? Like, what is his actual role? Like, does he have a defined role? Like, you are the number 3 center, but then he's playing second-line left wing.
No. He's like, and when you look at the NHL games, he's got the center/winger position, and he's always going to be the one to be moved around. I don't think they have an established third-line center right now. I really don't think Kerfoot's the guy for it either. Watching him at center, I'm not comfortable watching him at center. I've been okay with him on the wing. At center, absolutely not. Like, I'd rather have Jason Spezza as your third-line center.
So to you, he's not the prototypical third-line center reliable guy that you need.
I've actually left Engvall at center sometimes when he's out there playing center. He doesn't produce, but he's performing in the areas that are not tracked on the stat sheet.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know what to do with him. I think he's also a guy that's they could be putting into a package at the trade deadline if they need to. He's an expandable guy. Or, you know, we're in the Kraken expansion draft year, right? So he could be a guy that's going to be chosen to be unprotected.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a decent contract, so I'm sure Seattle would like to have a guy like that, a serviceable NHL player. I think the last thing we should talk about today is the defense, because that's always the issue with the Leafs, right? That's the defense, and obviously Muzzin's out right now. Morgan Riley, you know what you're going to get out of him, but how have the additions of guys like TJ Brody and the aforementioned Zach Bogosian, the hockey player / glass house that he has been for the Sabres over his career that I have had to endure since he's been traded over to Buffalo from Winnipeg. But what has this decor been like, Kyle? And is this equate to Frederik Andersen's lack of maybe stats that we have seen him put up in the past?
Well, before talking about the decor, I just want to give a shout out to Custom PPE. It's Canada's leading face mask provider. Best prices and quickest turnaround, built right here from the Niagara region. Order today at customppe.ca. We've got ours. Time to get your custom mask to keep you guys safe, especially out right now in the pandemic. So Custom PPE, guys, check them out. Awesome stuff. I love our Armchair ones. They're literally top quality masks when it comes to getting your mask, guys. I highly suggest you check them out. But yeah, the Leafs defense. So you brought up Glass House and Zach Bogosian, which is shocking because he's actually played basically almost every game this year.
Wow, shocker.
Yeah. I think he fits for the role they play him in. He's only been scratched for a couple of games. I think he's been scratched 2 or 3 games. I think it might have been just one game he'd been scratched. I don't know. But he's played 20 games. And actually, I can just check. We've played 20 games. Yeah, okay, so he's been scratched 1 game. He's been playing. He hasn't moved into the top 4 whatsoever, which is great. Because watching him play, I don't think he's a top 4 defenseman whatsoever. But in that bottom pair defenseman role, and to play with a guy like Travis Dermott, I think... I don't hate it necessarily. I've questioned some of his defensive plays at times because he's not really the smoothest guy out there. He's not a guy you can rely on to maybe, like, if he's going into the corner to get a puck in our own end, you're not, you don't have to look away and say, oh no, he's got this, right? No, he's a guy you're like, okay, come on, Bogosian, get the freaking puck out. I think he's groomed Dermott enough, though. I think he's done a good job playing with him. Last night they had Dermott and Lettinen playing together. I've actually loved Mikko Lettinen's game a little bit. He's actually, I know it sucks for him. He's only played 9 games, so he really hasn't had enough time, without the exhibition games and lack of a training camp, to get used to the North American style of game and ice. So he's kind of been behind a little bit, but so far I think he's slowly finding his game and finding his groove in this style of game compared to the European style of game. So I've liked his game so far. It's just, I don't know what it is. We brought it up earlier in the show, like every team's defense in the North Division just doesn't seem to be great like they can be. They're mediocre and good at best, but they're not great like a lot of teams' defense can be. And I don't know what it is. Like Justin Hall has spurts where he looks really good, and he has spurts where he looks like he should probably be in the Toronto Marlies.
But again, he's only making $1 million, so it's not what he was in Buffalo, where we were paying him $5.5 million to be a pylon. So the fact that he's making $1 million, it's not that bad. I mean, he won a Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay last year after signing there. So
he's good for grit. Like I see him, he's always battling in the corners and hitting people, which is great. It's what you want to see. We haven't really had that definition as a defensive team in a while, right? Leafs are always known to just have like like 5 out of the 6 D-men skilled and one guy that can maybe hit. But over the years, when we've added guys like Jake Muzzin and now like Justin Hall, kind of is a little bit of a grinder in a sense. I don't know. He's weird with that hair. I think he really needs to chop that off. It's getting a little ridiculous.
But have you liked them basically replacing Barrie with Brody? Do you think that that's been they lose Barrie, who's playing well with Edmonton, but it just did not work in Toronto, and they bring in TJ Brody and paying him $5 million? Do you think that that's been a good swap in that regard?
I think it's been a good swap, but not for the same reasons as why we acquired Barrie in the first place. Like we acquired Barrie in the first place because we thought he was basically going to be our quarterback on the power play, and he crapped the bed on that. He was not what we expected him to be, and I don't know what it was with him, with this team. He just didn't click whatsoever. But for the role that we brought in TJ Brody, 100%. We brought in him to be that defenseman that's going to play with Morgan Rielly all the time, like not be switched halfway down the season. No, this is going to be the guy that Morgan Rielly is going to gain the best chemistry with to finally get Morgan Rielly going. And I know it's only been 20 games, and again, I keep saying I sound like a broken record. No exhibition games, so they really didn't get their feet wet, in a sense. But so far, I've loved the chemistry that these two have been starting to build. Like Morgan Rielly, who's a defenseman, has 16 points in 21 games. As a defenseman, that is awesome. He's the guy that's out there, and he's also quarterbacking the power play. So I think him and Brody have worked well with each other. And you can see it in their game. Brody only has 5 points, but again, he's not he's more of a two-way defenseman, leans more on the defensive side of the game more than offensive.
He's not going to put up the sexy stats.
Yeah, if you see it in their game, you watch them play together, they know where each other are on the ice at all times of the game. They could make a blind pass to each other and it would go tape to tape. So that's what I want to see them keep building on between Brody and Rielly, because it's not perfect. I'm not sitting here saying that they're the best D pairing in the league. They obviously need to work on a lot of things, which I know they are, but I think that this has been a perfect fit.
And I mean, obviously the defense, it's worked somewhat. But I think the one thing that I wanted to mention before we wrap up today was, what do you think of the guy continues to be a journeyman, especially within, this Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto rivalry now. The Leafs made that small acquisition of Alex Galchenyuk from the Carolina Hurricanes, who he had just been flipped from the Ottawa Senators for Ryan Dzingel. So he had a cup of coffee in Carolina and then was flipped to Toronto for Igor Koshkov and David Warsofsky, so 2 AHLers at this point. Do you see Alex Galchenyuk having any sort of role on this team going forward, or is he just a guy that they're keeping on the roster for now as just for the sake of it and on the taxi squad in case some major injuries happen? Do you think there's any way that he can rejuvenate his career and, show the Sens and the Habs that they were wrong for giving up on him going to another rivalry team?
I'm telling you right now, we're not going to see it anytime soon. You said it best there. Unless there's like a major injury where we can flex the cap, because no one has money right now. there's no way you're going to see Alex Galchenyuk in a Leafs jersey playing a regular season game until that happens. Right now, he's just going to be the guy that sits on the taxi squad that's in practices all the time, and which is good because you know why? If they're in practice working on him not giving up the puck as much as he does, then I'm fine with that because he gives up the puck a lot. My initial reaction to the acquisition was, why? Why the hell did we acquire him? He has been, I mean, the last couple of times he's shown that he's been all right, but man, is his giveaway to takeaway ratio horrible. Absolutely garbage. So I hope he's there working on that. And I can't see that we see him in a Leafs uniform until, again, there's a catastrophic injury where we can flex the cap enough for him to step in. Until then, I can't see him playing. He'll stick on the taxi squad. I don't see him playing for the Marlies whatsoever. I think he's just taxi squad ridden until he can fit. And I think maybe it'll take like a bad stretch. Maybe the Leafs lose. If the Leafs lose all 3 straight to Edmonton, I can see him probably making the lineup. But I can't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, with a guy like him, there's no point in putting him on the 4th line. He's not gonna give you the most that he can on the 4th line. Like, he's not that type of player. He's got to be in. For me, he's got to be in the top 9 at least for him to be able to produce and play the way that his style of play.
Maybe he's that 3rd line center. Who knows?
Alex Galchenyuk's the savior of the 3rd line center issues for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who would have thought?
And maybe in practice, I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention, but it's tough. When I try to find Alex Galchenyuk news, I literally only found one piece, and it was just a highlight from practice, but it didn't say who he was practicing with or whatsoever. Maybe they test the fields, and maybe they throw him with Nylander and Tavares and see how he works out with them.
I think the only thing that's positive from that is that he's definitely going to want to prove to the Habs and the Sens that they were wrong by that. And obviously with them playing so many more rivalry games this year, maybe that'll be the spark that Alex Galchenyuk needs on this Toronto Maple Leafs team, which is still going to be weird as hell to see him wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs uniform and not hearing the Montreal Canadiens PA announcer say, Alex Galchenyuk. It's going to be the Leafs PA announcer announcing Alex Galchenyuk, which is going to be odd for I'm sure a lot of people, Habs fans included.
Just Leaf fans, don't go out and get your Galchenyuk jerseys just yet. Just kind of be patient. This might be a flash in the pan like Jussi Jokinen. So let's just kind of wait.
Olli Jokinen?
Olli Jokinen, yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of those.
Other than that, I think that's going to wrap it up for today.
Yep.
Thanks, Brandon, for coming on, talking some buds.
Yeah, it was nice.
We'll see you when.
Not be angry about a team that I have no ties to that gets me fired up and angry about. So
I might not be as angry as you, but I'm still angry on a few things, and it's sad for a team that's like 1st place in the NHL. Why are we so angry? This is why there's still problems with this team. We shouldn't be as angry with a 1st place team in the NHL, but we are.
Yep, there's still problems.
Yep. The standings don't show much. It really just shows how, again, like you said, the inflated the North Division is, and it really hides the fact that, we need to get our power play going and fix our defensive game. And Frederik Andersen just needs to wake up and smell the coffee and be the Frederik Andersen that we want him to be.
The last point is just my worry is that they might be in for a wake-up call once they get through this North Division playing against the top teams in the other divisions. So I think that they have to be ready for that and know that.
So that's even if we get to the conference final.
Yeah.
We have to still prove that we can win a first-round playoff.
Yeah, but luckily, as Oprah Winfrey put it great, you get goals, everybody gets goals against Ottawa.
I guess so.
Vancouver. I guess that meme kind of makes sense for the North Division. Everybody gets goals, but it's still been a good start for the Leafs. We'll see if they can keep it up for the next stretch here. And these 3 games against Edmonton are going to be really big because obviously those 2 teams are fighting for a lot, and McDavid and Matthews are fighting for a lot. So it'll be interesting.
So that's going to wrap it up, guys, for today's episode of the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs edition right here on the Armchair GMs Sports Network. It is your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, and delivered to you right here in the Niagara region. All of the links to follow us are in the description of the video version of this podcast on YouTube, or you can check us out by going to our user-friendly website, armchairgmsports.com. That will navigate you to where you need to go to listen to this podcast, download it, and check out other things we have on the website as well. A big thank you to all our great sponsors who help support our network and keep the show on the air. Make sure you're checking out all your great local sponsors and your local businesses in the Niagara area, especially during these hard times. It's always good to support your local businesses as well. And finally, to you viewers out there, thank you for tuning in and listening along with us for this episode. My name is Kyle. This has been another episode of the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Leafs Edition right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, by sports fans, for sports fans, and giving you guys a go Leafs go.
I will not.